Hey guys, and welcome to part 3 of this list spotlight video for Terracon 2016. We just saw Adam Napier's Iron Hands Gladius. We've been kind of lucky enough to get Scott Devall from Canberra to send through his Imperial Fist Gladius. So let's have a look at this and kind of juxtapose it with Adam's. So we got Imperial Fist chapter tactics here. I've got them up over here as well. Let's go through the list. So Scott's got the captain he's got captain on bike here with Artificer Armor, Power Fist, Shield Eternal, Ore Specs, Digital Weapons, and Melter Bombs. So it's interesting because when you see something like the Shield Eternal, you kind of expect him to be a chapter master. But for those unfamiliar with community comp, if he did become a chapter master and have a 4th wound, then he would trigger an extra comp for the fast IC tax. So that kind of is that justification. He's got a chaplain on bike, a command squad on bikes with 3 grav guns, 2 combi grav guns, apothecary, and a drop pod, which they can't board, but it's a free drop pod with objective secured. 2 tactical squads in drop pods with melter, combi melter, and melter bombs as well. Then he's got 4 5-man tactical squads with plasma gun, combi plasma in heavy bolter razorbacks. So that's very homogeneous. I like that. 2 5-man assault squads with jump packs and melter bombs. We've seen Scott deviate from that kind of standard attack bike choice. These assault squads, unlike normal assault squads, are obsec though. He's got a 5-man devastator squad with 2 missile launchers and flak missiles in a rhino. And then a 3-man dev scent squad with 3 twin-lit ice cannons and 3 missile launchers. So both of these squads have tank hunter because of the Imperial Fist chapter tactics. And then Scott's also gone with the 10th Company Auxiliary. He's got the 2 5-man scout squads with sniper rifles and cloaks. It's worth noting that with the +1 with stealth and the +1 from camo cloaks, the scouts will have a 2-up cover save passively in ruins, which is really good. And then he's just got a 5-man scout squad, which I assume has got just the bolters. Scott spent 8 credits, 2 on the non-standard deployment table, 1 on vehicles, 2 on free transports, 1 on model count, and 2 on the command squad with apothecary. So the only kind of questionable credit expenditure here, I'd say, is this model count expenditure. That's because that credit only begins at 75 models. So Scott's he's kind of paying this credit, but he's only benefiting from 3 models. So if he cut 4 models from his list to get to 74, he would go down a credit. And there are ways in which he could have cut those 4 models. We'll look at it now because it's come up. So I think the easiest way would have been through dropping these assault squads to bikes. It could have been to attack bikes or just to bike units. If there were units of 3 bikes, he would also drop 4 models. That's the only really discernible way. Another way would be to make these scout squads scout bike squads. So that's another way he could have done it. So it was possible, but I don't think 1 credit is going to make that much of a difference ultimately though. So it's not worth harping on about. Scott's been kind enough to include some rationale, which I really like that. So he's mentioned that he's taking the captain, chaplain, and command squad with lots of grav to be hard hitting in the shooting phase, as well as be good in assault, and with obviously relatively hard to kill with the captain with the 2-up, 3-up invuln and 5-up FMP. He's got the anti-tank drops, and he wants his razorbacks with plasmas to be midfield holders, and then supporting that from his devastators and centurions. So assault squads are attack bikes to be used mainly as backfield units. Yep, and potentially a forward threat. And he's taking his centurion devastators because Imperial Fist devastators are C1, so he's dodged a comp with those. And the flak missiles to add some AA. Okay, so and I like that. He's planning to use the scouts potentially to deny infiltrating scouting, which is very good. So what do we think about that? I think the command squad is good. I generally really like command squads and bikes. The only kind of criticism I have is that he doesn't really have he doesn't have any special weapons over these command squads in terms of in combat. So all he's really got in combat is the Crozius Arcanum on the Chaplain and the Power Fist. That's only 6 attacks in total, you know. Or obviously, yeah. So it's only 6 attacks. 8 on the charge of these specialist kind of the combat weapons. It's not really that much. I would have liked to have seen maybe an axe or a lightning claw or something in the command squad just to boost its combat power a little bit. I also think some storm shields would have really benefited from storm shields. I think storm shields are one of the Imperium's most powerful pieces of war gear. I kind of started by playing Imperium and then kind of started playing quite a few Xenos armies. And when you play Xenos, you would absolutely love to be able to take 3-up invulns on anything for 10 points. 3-up invulnerables for 10 points are an absolute steal, and I think way more Imperium players should be making use of them. You don't need to spam them, because when you spam them, they become exploitable, but I would like to have seen 2 to 3 storm shields on this unit just to give the ICs good lookout sir candidates. So obviously the captain does have the shield eternal, but sometimes he's gonna be, you know, there's gonna be points where you're gonna want to start lookout sirring, and there's also potential for angles, your opponent to be getting angles or precision shots. I would have liked the apothecary. If not the apothecary to have a storm shield himself, at least to be able to look out sir to a storm shield. It is only a 4-up lookout sir, but it's better than nothing. So I would have liked to see a bit of war gear go into this squad. Maybe 2 storm shields and a power axe, something like that. I don't mind these. I think things like melter bombs, I generally like to add melter bombs right at the end. So I would be doing priority war gear like these kind of things I've mentioned before I buy melter bombs, but melter bombs are good because it makes the squad, it's got a dedicated role and it's good at it. I like these squads. I think that the assault cannon upgrade on Razorbacks is really good, but I also, as I mentioned in the first video, they're often the first to die. So just assault Razorbacks with heavy bolters are more kind of discreet, they're more subtle, and they're still a very powerful tool. And he's done well to have the plasma gun and combi plasmas in there so the squads can pop out and really burn what they want to kill. Combi weapons are something I'm a little bit hot and cold on. I've also played armies with a lot of combis, and combis are 1-use only weapons. And paying 10 points for a 1-use only weapon means that it really needs to generate value when it pops. Luckily for Battle Company, the doctrines really help with combis. Not especially with plasmas, because you minimize overheat. So I think when you come out with tactical doctrines and pop your combis, you generally will get value out of them. So I do like the combis, and I think that these squads will really take a toll on opponents that might not be kind of really expecting 5-man squads to do that much damage. The assault squads we touched on before. Scott did mention that he doesn't own these attack bikes, and I think if he did, he might take those attack bikes. That would have freed up points to upgrade this squad and stuff like that. But it is worth noting that assault squads are, they're not a good unit if you kind of look at them as what they're called. They're called an assault squad. So if you try to play an assault squad as a squad that assaults, you probably won't get that much success out of it, just because Space Marines on their own, even though in the fluff they're supposed to be, they're not very good at combat. Because you just you can't get that many power weapons into the unit. They're generally easy to kill. They're vulnerable to Overwatch. They don't have that many attacks. Their stats in assault aren't amazing. What makes these squads good is that they're mobile and they're objective secured. So most assault squads aren't objective secured. And I used to play Blood Angels in last edition when they had the OBSEC, they had the troops, assault marines. And when you make assault marines troops, they change, the whole role changes. And that might sound kind of silly, but it's just purely because of objective secured. It's because the unit no longer needs to necessarily just engage with your opponent straight away. They can just kind of hang back and just sit on objectives with OBSEC. And in some ways, they're better than a multi-melter attack bike at doing that, because you just have more wounds. And they're smaller models that are easy to hide. So I don't mind these just for what's kind of Scott designated them as, which is just objective holders. I think that's pretty good. And I think that if he needs them to kind of add weight to a kind of an assault or something like that, they can be used for that role. So I don't mind them. I don't mind giving them melter bombs either, just for a bit of extra threat. But he has purchased so far quite a few. We've already seen like 4 melts. So that's already 20 points on melter bombs, not including the captain's melter bomb. I think I just saw this. I think this captain's melter bomb should have been on the chaplain, because the captain's already got a power fist. So anything that he would want to use his melter bomb on, the power fist would be effective at anyway. Whereas the chaplain's Crozius, there's going to be times where he's going to want, for example, against a monstrous creature, he'd prefer the AP2 of the melter bomb, and against the vehicle, then a melter bomb is better than his Crozius. So that's something. It's a little bit of a nitpick, but I think those melter bombs would have been better on the chaplain. Let's go down to the Devastator squad. 2 missile launchers and flak missiles is an interesting choice. I think, why has he not maxed this unit out? Obviously, he wants to fire the 2 missile launchers out of the hatchet of the Rhino, protecting the unit. I personally think that if you're going to take Imperial Fists, max out, take as many devs as you can. So I would like to see this unit be a 10-man squad, that he could combat squad, but they'd still be 2 squads of Imperial Fists Devastators with Tank Hunter. I don't mind the flak missiles. They're pretty expensive. They're more expensive than las cannons, for example. And I'm not 100% sold on them, but I think having a little bit of anti-air in the list isn't bad. So I'm not, for 10 points on each missile launcher, I'm not going to it's not something I would identify as a big problem with the list. I think it's interesting, and I think it's good that Scott's proved himself a little bit to some anti-air. The Dev Scent squad is one of those things that you kind of have to look at it in the context of the matchups that he plays. I think in the metagame, Dev Scents are pretty good. They're pretty efficient in points. Opponents might not have the firepower to project over a really long range to take them out. And he's going to have a command squad on their doorstep, so they're going to be probably more worried about the command squad than the Dev Scents. But obviously they are vulnerable to AP2, and they do go down relatively quickly when they are focused. But I do kind of like his logic that he avoided the C1 cost. It does make a lot of sense. And they do have, no pun intended, and they do have the Tank Hunter as well. So these are a really efficient tank hunting squad. Does he want the Omniscope in this unit? I don't think the Omniscope's worth a comp in this unit, but it was an interesting option, I guess. I still really think this should have been a 10-man combat squadded unit, even if the other 2 of them had las cannons. So you kind of combat squad 2 with flak missile launchers, 2 with las cannons, and you kind of deploy the one in rhinos. You can keep them both in the rhino, actually. It's actually a little trick I was thinking about. I'm not 100% sure on the rules, but I think you can just keep the squad combat squadded in the rhino, and they can both shoot 2 weapons out of the hatch. I think that's a little trick, because the wording on the on the shooting hatch is a unit may fire 2 weapons out of the vehicle per turn. So a unit may fire 2, but the other unit in the vehicle can also fire 2. So I think you could have just done that as well. You could have just taken 10 of them, combat squadded them in the rhino, and shot them both out. If it doesn't actually work that way and I'm wrong, then you just put 5 somewhere else. The auxiliary, I really like this. I think scouts are an amazing unit choice, and giving them +1, giving them stealth as well, just makes them even better. So, and they're the cheapest auxiliary, so I'm fine with this. I think this is great. I think the list is just really sound. I think this is just a really, really clean. All the unit options are pretty good. Even the assault squads that I kind of, had a little problem with in terms of the fact that there's an extra comp being spent, I think that they'll be really effective at holding the backfield. They'll take the pressure off the tactical squads that might normally want to stay back. Those squads can be more aggressive because the assault squads are kind of bouncing between backfield objectives to cap. So it is an interesting option. I think this list will be just like Adams, or just overpower people with just lots of objectives secured. He's got good AP2 with his grav guns in his command squad. I kind of like that he's taking the combis, because I guess his logic is that after he's popped those combi gravs, those guys will probably be the first to die. So he's shaved some points. He shaved some points there. I kind of would have liked maybe to see, because I have made some suggestions that required him to spend more points. So I think I should, with due diligence, actually justify how I would spend those points, how I would save the points. I mentioned that I wanted to boost this squad up by a little bit. How would I do that? Because there's not much stuff to shave out. I would probably drop the Shield Eternal. I'd probably make the Shield Eternal a normal Storm Shield. Maybe, definitely I would like to see some couple of Storm Shields and a Power Axe or two in the command squad. If it was an ideal kind of situation, I would probably, the way I would find the points would be to shave the assault squads back to attack bikes. That's a way it would save you about 90 points by doing that, or I think it's a little bit less, 55. So it's we're looking at 30, so 70 points we would save, and then I would try to funnel some of these points into the Devastator squad with the extra heavy weapons. I think it could be done. It could be done, but the point is, let's not worry about it. This list is very powerful as it is. And I think it has all the necessary tools to win games. It's got the bully unit. It's got the mass obsec midfield. It's got a good backfield. It's got good shooting. It's got some really good anti-tank firepower with these dev squads. So all in all, I think Scott's done really well. And he did. I was at CanCon with him this year actually, and he ran a very mech-based Marine army, but he wasn't running Gladius. So, and he did pretty well. I think now that he's running Gladius and he's actually got all these free points and all these command benefits, I think Scott will do really well at this event. And as far as I know, there aren't many battle companies going to Terracon. So, so I think there's only a few. So I've covered most of them. So really, really good luck to these boys. I think you'll do the Marines proud, and enjoy the kind of the I feel like Battle Company's pretty well suited to the ITC mission format with the hybrid missions. Just try not to give away too many kill points, I guess. Little tricks like if you've got a obviously like one or two tactical Marines left, try to board them into a dedicated transport and get them out of there. And then if you're versing Scott and he's trying to do that, you've got to try and make sure he doesn't. And when you try to kill a tactical squad, make sure you kill the whole thing. Anyway, I think we can call it there. I think I'm really happy with both lists that have been submitted. I think they're really good lists, very clean, and I wish the both boys really good luck at Terracon, and I'll see you both next week. Cheers.